Gay and lesbian rights activists are staging a weekend of demonstrations here in Washington. March leaders are calling today's procession from the White House to the Capitol the biggest civil rights march in American history. More from ABC's Bill Greenwood.
Demonstrators have come to the Capitol from every state, demanding civil rights for the gay community and accusing the government of indifference.
Help us deliver a message to the White House. No more AIDS business as usual.
2,000 panels from the AIDS quilt were displayed on the Washington Mall as a solemn reminder of the suffering. 410 AIDS patients die every day, one every 7 minutes. But the weekend ceremonies also celebrate the living.
Dearly beloved,
2,000 gay couples participated in a mass wedding, even though same-sex marriages are not recognized by any of the 50 states.
We still want to make the commitment to each other.
A public commitment.
Right.
Still, it's a desire for the commitment of government in the fight against discrimination that's brought so many people to the Capitol for today's Gay Rights March. And if there's anywhere near the 1 million people that organizers expect, politicians can be expected to pay attention. Bill Greenwood, ABC News, Washington.
That's the news this morning, Bill. I know you'll be having a lot more from the march in the program.
How influential is the gay and lesbian vote, and how powerful is the gay lobby? Well, gay organizations claim that homosexuals provided 7 million votes for Bill Clinton and contributed as much as $3.5 million to his campaign.
A controversial sex study released this month suggests that the percentage of gay men in this country is about 1%. However, a new study expected to be released tomorrow, a Lewis Harris poll, suggests that the number is twice that amount. Well, either way, both surveys cite far fewer gays in America than the 10% published in the Kinsey report 45 years ago. But whatever the real figure, today's gay and lesbian march here in Washington is expected to be the largest civil rights march of any kind to ever converge on Washington. So on this historic occasion, we decided to take a look back at the movement, a movement which Eric Marcus, who's an historian, explains blossomed because of that Kinsey report in 1948.
According to Kinsey's estimate, there are about 200,000 homosexuals in the Los Angeles area. We're going to talk about those people tonight and about the problem they present to the community at large.
It was stunning because, for one thing, no one even talked about sexuality in 1948. And what it said to gay and lesbian people at the time was that they weren't alone. They weren't some sort of strange aberration. Anytime the issue of gay and lesbian rights or gay people in general has risen to the attention of the American public, there's been a backlash.
Get out of any department of the government anyone who was serving the communist cause.
What happened was communism was linked with homosexuality. What's so sad is that many of those who were involved in leading the campaign against homosexuals at that time were themselves homosexuals. I think of someone like Roy Cohn, Joe McCarthy himself.
In the 60s, we had the Vietnam protests, we had civil rights protests. What happened to the gay rights liberation movement during that time?
The first pickets, led by gay and lesbian people in 1965 in Washington, they took their cue directly from the black civil rights movement.
Well, I understand that we're being picketed by a group of homosexuals. The policy of the department is that we do not employ homosexuals knowingly, and that if we discover homosexuals in our department, we discharge them.
And then in the late 60s, the gay liberation movement was energized by the Vietnam War struggle.
Was there ever any crossover during that time between movements?
Gay and lesbian people were welcomed quietly in the black civil rights struggle and very quietly, and in the Vietnam struggle, the anti-war struggle, but not under their own banners. The police normally conducted raids against gay bars all across the country. They would go in, they'd arrest the patrons. This particular night, June 28, 1969, a riot erupted here at the Stonewall, challenging the police. But out of that developed a number of different organizations that were very radical. They were saying, it's time for a change. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association removed homosexuality from its list of mental illnesses. What that changed was that people could no longer say, we can't hire you because you're sick.
Macho, macho, macho man. Enough to go around. Now! Stop it now!
A huge candlelight march last night to City Hall, where the shootings took place.
Mr. Rock Hudson has acquired immune deficiency syndrome.
The AIDS crisis brought a lot of gay men and women together. It's made people very angry and very vocal.
Do you think there'll be much of a change after the march?
But we'll show America the gay and lesbian community or communities in all our diversity, from all across America, all walks of life. And I think the changes will be subtle at first, but dramatic ultimately.
And here with me in Washington to discuss what some of those changes might be is Nadine Smith. She is a co-chair of today's historic march. Thanks so much for joining us. I know you're tired. You've been up all night long. We appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Is today's march part and parcel to dispel the myth that this is a lifestyle choice? Do you find that term objectionable?
Yes, I think most people find the term lifestyle choice objectionable. Whether one chooses to be Jewish, converts to Judaism, or is born a Jew, that in no way impacts whether or not we find anti-Semitism objectionable in society. So the whole debate around choice or something that someone is born with is beside the point. The reason that we're here marching is as a show of strength, as a show of solidarity, not just for the lesbian, gay, and bisexual community, but also for the growing number of straight allies and people within the civil rights and social justice struggles that have preceded ours.
Mm-hmm. There was a march in Washington in 1987 which wasn't as publicized as this one. Why the difference in so few amount of years? I mean, there have been gays always.
Well, in fact, the 87 march has a great deal to do with why there's such an outpouring for this march. Because the 87 march brought over 500,000 people here, it really energized the community. People in rural communities that don't have any sort of political network or social network were energized. There were 130 some odd jurisdictions that introduced sexual orientation to human rights ordinances. That has galvanized the community, and now we're dealing with the issue of lifting the military ban, federal civil rights bill, the anti-gay ballot initiatives across the country. So the community's really banded together, and as I said, our allies are standing up against the right-wing assault.
But are people ready to hear what you want to say today?
I think that right now we are in the middle of a national dialogue on an issue that really has been the last or the latest chapter in the civil rights struggle. And people are dealing with it seriously. As a former Air Force Academy cadet, I know that people in this military issue debate are having to juxtapose the stereotypes and negative images that have been perpetuated about our community with the hero worship of a soldier. And that's caused a lot of people to rethink.
A little bit later on. One quick question. Bill Clinton is not here today. You spoke to him this last week. Are you disappointed that he's not here?
Well, I think there was a great deal of expectation that he would be here, that he supports the community. I don't think it in any way diminishes his commitment to the community. I think that he's missed an opportunity to make a very, very powerful statement, not just to the audience here, but also to the country.
And to a very large voting bloc.
Absolutely.
Nadine Smith, thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it.